Hello and welcome to Ballyhoo Creations. This tutorial is for the 8-inch doll designs, which are from ballyhoocreations.com. This is the bodysuit and in the hoop hair version right there, and then there's another version that's wearing the add-ons for clothing, and she has hair that's been glued on after she's stitched. Before we get started, I wanted to make sure you understand that when you download the designs, you also get these PDF files. One is the checklist for instructions, also has tools and materials needed, a lot of helpful tips in there. And then you also get the templates, which are full-size templates, and they also have the stitching out order for your embroidery machine. I've got some no-show mesh stabilizer in my hoop. You can use a 5x7 hoop for the 8-inch dolls. I'm actually using a 6x10 here, so don't let that throw you off. And the first step that you stitch is to put the outline onto the stabilizer, and that will show you where to place the fabric in the next step. That placement step puts an arrow on your stabilizer, and that shows you the direction of stretch. So you take your stretch fabric in that direction, the stretchiest direction, follows that arrow, and place your front body fabric to cover those placement stitches. You just want to smooth it out. You could either use a skin tone or you could use some kind of color, and that will become the doll's body or bodysuit. And then we stitch the tack down stitch. This will do the outline of the body. It's not the actual stitch line, so your doll will be a little bit smaller than this. If your fabric is wrinkly, you can just kind of smooth it out as it goes with some kind of pointer tool. I'm using a purple thing here. And just like before, we make sure that the direction of stretch is going across the body horizontally, and we put the back fabric on as well. This is also an 8x8 piece, the same as the front, but this time I'm not going to center it. I'm going to make sure that the left hand is covered. And then I leave the excess over on the right side. That'll give us enough fabric to do the fold method in a little bit. I'm going to stitch color 3, and what this does is it puts a dot at the neckline and another one down around the crotch area, and those dots are going to be used to fold the fabric. So what we do is take the back fabric, just the back, not the front, and fold it like the page of a book. Smooth it out, get it out of the way. So you'll see the right half of the body front, and just kind of finger press that fold down. Then the next color 4 stitches 2 more dots, one around the ankle and another at the neck, and this is going to be your second fold line. Then it goes over to the right side and just parks the needle over there out of the way. So here are the next dots. Going to take the fabric again, fold it back where it came from. Just get it under the presser foot there. If it's easier for you to take the hoop off the machine and do the folding, that's fine. I was trying to get it all done here on the machine. And again, just smooth it out and kind of finger press that down. It doesn't need to be a sharp fold. Then we stitch color 4, which is going to give us a placement guide at the top and also around the bottom. It won't actually stitch through the legs, but it gives you the top and bottom of where you need to place the stabilizer, and you need a 6-inch by 3-inch piece of stabilizer for that little square. The reason that we do that is we don't want stabilizer in the arms or the feet, because it'll be too hard to turn the doll inside out with all that stabilizer in there. And for the last bit, we stitch color 6, which does the seams of the body. You do want to babysit this very closely and make sure that your presser foot doesn't get stuck on the stabilizer. Some machines are better than others depending on the shape of the presser foot and how high it is. But I've got a purple thing here. You can use any kind of pointing tool, just don't put your hands in there around the needle. So this stitches clockwise around the body, and then it reverses and goes counterclockwise. That gives you a nice double stitch seam so that your seams will be nice and strong. With the body all stitched, we've removed that project from the hoop, and now we're hooping up some stabilizer again for the head, putting the placement stitches down, and again that arrow shows you the stretchy direction of the fabric. So place the 4x4 fabric over the placement stitches, cover those up, and now we're going to stitch color 2, which does a tack down stitch. That's attaching your face fabric to the stabilizer, and it leaves some openings with jump threads there so that you can get in and stuff the face a little later. Stitch color 3, and that one embroiders the face onto the face fabric. Going to take the hoop off the machine when this is finished, and we'll do a little bit of stuffing on the face and show you how that's done. First, I'm going to trim the jump threads away from the face. If your machine didn't already do that for you, this is the time to do that. I'm taking a little wad of stuffing and using small hemostats or tweezers, I'm going to poke that down into the nose. This step is optional, but it does add more character to your cloth character. Besides stuffing the nose, you can also do the cheeks, the chin, the brow line. You can soft sculpt these faces however you want. I've already put little cheeks in there, and then just a little tiny bit of stuffing, swipe it across a glue stick and glue that down to the stabilizer. I just put a chin in there as well, so she's got a nicely padded face. And I'm also giving her a forehead, so she's going to have kind of a chubby face. Now this doll, I'm going to give her a bald head, and I'll add hair to her later. So we're using the doll head in the hoop method with no hair in the instructions. I've placed the back fabric on top, and I'm stitching color 4. This puts 2 little dots so we can fold. Take the bottom of the back piece where those little dots are and fold that upwards. You should be able to see the mouth and the chin there. Put that back on the machine, stitch color 5, it puts a couple more dots, and we fold that piece down again. See where the dots are? And then just fold that down and put that on the machine. Cover the entire back with another piece of stabilizer. We're almost done with the embroidery machine piece of this. We're just going to stitch color 6, which does the head seam, and again it's double stitched, so it goes around clockwise and counterclockwise. For doing the hair in the hoop, I've already got the face done and it's stuffed, and the instructions are separate for the in the hoop hair versus the doll head with no hair. You can stitch the dots in colors 4 and 5 if you'd like for placement, but you don't have to, you can skip those. What I'm doing is placing the hair on the front of the head and making sure that the hair is pointing down, the nap of the hair, so that it hangs down, and then another piece right side down on top of that. And then another piece of skin fabric goes on the bottom and make sure that it covers like those chin stitches there. You can fold that flap or not, it doesn't really matter, as long as you have at least a 1/2 inch overlap between that skin fabric and the back of the hair. Just cover this hairy face sandwich with another piece of stabilizer across the whole thing, and then put that back on your machine to stitch color 6, and that will do the seams of the head. When you cut out the doll, there are 2 different ways you can do this. If you're experienced, you can just look at the seams on the other side and not the stabilizer side and cut about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Or if you're newer at this, the placement stitches that you see on the stabilizer are actually where you can cut to get the proper seam allowance. So just cut right to the inside of those placement stitches and everything should come out okay. Just make sure you don't cut the actual seams, but you do want a very small seam allowance on the dolls. That way they'll turn inside out more easily. Because of the stabilizer and the stretch fabric, you don't have to worry about the fabric unraveling with the small seam allowance. Also, when you're cutting, make sure you get into the corners, especially under the arms. Get as close to that seam line as you can. Make sure you cut away the excess on the hands so that they'll turn inside out more easily. And the same with that crotch area, get all the way up to the top. Don't clip the seam, but get as close as you can. With the doll cut out, now we need to cut the opening through the stabilizer and the back fabric. So I'm using a sharp pair of scissors just to cut the stabilizer first. Little slit up the back there, and then I'm taking that fold, cutting it into the fold just a little bit, just a little snip, and then open that up as well. And now we have a nice big opening that will be easy to close later on. If you have any loose threads, just trim those away. Now we're ready to turn it inside out. I'm going to use the hemostats to go all the way to the tip of the hand, open the hemostats a little bit, and use my fingernail to push the seam in there. You don't want to pull it from the bottom, you want to squeeze it up at the top of the tip of the hand and pull that through. So I'll show you that again. Open them up, push it in, and then squeeze at the top and pull it through. It may take some practice, but they can turn inside out. The order for turning the doll should be arms first, then the neck, then go and do the feet, and turn the rest of the body inside out. If you try to turn the body first and then do the arms or the neck, it's much harder that way. So always do the smallest parts first. After it's turned inside out, I like to push out the seams using some kind of blunt instrument. The hemostats are good. You can put them in there and open them up to get those seams really nice and opened up. You don't need to press seams on a stuffed animal or a doll. You're going to open them up with the stuffing later. The instructions include a wiring diagram if you want to add a wire armature to your doll. It gives them a lot more character. Don't be afraid of this. If you have wire cutters and needle nose pliers and some armature wire, it's pretty simple to do, but I'll leave that all for a separate video. Just putting the armature inside this doll and then I'll stuff it. Add small bits of stuffing into the doll. You can use hemostats for this. Make sure you get into the ankles really good if you're wiring the doll so it'll stand correctly. You can lightly stuff the legs. I actually don't stuff the arms if there's armature, but if I'm not putting wire in there, I'll put a little bit of stuffing into the arms. Just make sure that you get the neck firmly stuffed if you're not putting wire in there, because that's going to hold the head up. So make sure the neck and chest are firmly stuffed. If you are putting wire, the wire goes up into the neck, so you don't have to deal with that. And to show you the little bit of a trick that you can use, because we've got stabilizer under stretch fabric, you can add some stuffing between the stabilizer and stretch fabric for a sculpting effect. Put some glue on them with the glue stick, and then it's easier to use the hemostats, but you don't have to. I stick them between the stabilizer and the stretch fabric. This is going to be a little derriere. And once that glue dries, it'll hold that stuffing onto the stabilizer so it won't shift around too much. And you can always use your fingers, get it where you want it to go. There you go. That's how that's done. You could also cut a slit in the front to do like a big pot belly or something like that. And now it's time to glue the back closed. Because of this flap that we've already done with the in the hoop design, it should be fairly easy. Just be careful with your glue. Wipe any excess off of the nozzle of the glue bottle and you can get a nice clean seam that way. You can also hand stitch these, and I would suggest if you're giving these dolls to a small child, it's better to stitch them closed rather than to glue them. I just run a little bead of glue along the back there, and then sometimes I'll use a pin and just kind of pull that fabric over the glue layer. I'm using Fabrifix glue, and I like it because it sets up very fast, dries clear, stays flexible, so it kind of hits all the bullet points of what I'm looking for in a fabric glue. The head is put together the same way as the body. You just cut around using the placement guide as your cutting guide. Make sure you don't cut the bobbin threads off of the back of the face design. You don't want that to come unraveled. So cut that out. Open up the slit in the stabilizer and the fold. If you did the in the hoop hair, you don't even have to do that. The fold will already be there. You just cut through the stabilizer. And then turn it inside out, stuff it, and you can either glue it closed like we did with the body or hand stitch it. It's up to you. To attach the head to the body, I'm going to hand stitch this using a very strong thread. I'm using upholstery thread here. And a long doll needle, which is a 3-inch long needle. Just trying to figure out where I want the head. You've got a few options. Put it from the seam in the neckline, and I'm going to knot it. So watch how this is done. Through the loop on the right, and then back through the loop on the left. And when you pull that up, I like to use the needle to hold that thread. But pull up on that, and that'll give you a nice strong knot on your fabric. And this is just going to be a ladder stitch around between the neck and the head. Putting it on there to see where I want it. And I'm just taking tiny stitches, attaching the head to the neck, across the top, and then down the left side, across the bottom, and then up the right side again. If you have problems with the thread getting unruly, put the doll's arms out of the way so it won't catch the thread. You might also try, I'm using Thread Magic here, which is a wax you put on your thread, and it keeps them from getting too unruly. But it's just the nature of the beast. You're going to get that thread caught by the arms and feet and things like that. Just be patient. It'll get done. We'll speed this up. And then to finish up, I'm going to use that same knot I did before, going through the right side loop, then the left side loop, and then pull it tight. And now I'm going to bury my threads into the doll body. Just push it down in there, and then clip it right at the surface. There are as many ways to add doll hair as there are doll makers, I think. I have a video series showing several different ways, whether you want to use yarn, faux fur. In this one, I am doing a faux fur method, but I'm gluing it on rather than doing it in the hoop because this is a long fur and it's hard to get it, it's not hard to manage in the hoop. So I'm going to glue it on there. I'm just cutting pieces to fit her head, covering it in glue, and then just gluing little bits here and there until I'm happy with her hairstyle. But check out that doll series. It's on the Ballyhoo Creations webpage that shows all the different ways that I like to do doll hair. You have a lot of options there. If you did the hairstyle in the hoop, you're way ahead. You've already got hair on the doll. You just turn it inside out. Make sure that the front of the hair is on the front like that. And then you can use a needle or a pin or something to get the hair out of the seams. That way your seam won't show on the hair. These dolls were designed to be like a coloring book, so you can add your own eye color and lips. I do like a white paint pen for the whites of the eyes, and then I'm using tulip fabric markers, but there are many other markers you can use on fabric. And then embellish however you want. This one has the in the hoop hair, using like a black minky fabric. And the little glasses are from, I believe, Hobby Lobby. They're in the scrapbook section. And also buttons. So you don't have to have the back flap in the back. You can also put it on the front of the doll just by turning the doll around. It's that simple. And then I've got little tiny buttons also, I think from Hobby Lobby, that are glued on the front. So she's wearing a bodysuit with buttons and a pair of glasses. I'll show you a few other dolls I've made recently to give you some ideas. This one has the sweater from the add-on doll clothes set. She's got some glued on mohair locks, and then I just stitched a triangle piece of fabric for her hat. This one in the middle has the jeans, which is the add-on clothes, and then the white-haired one has the in the hoop hair with white minky, curly minky, and her bodysuit is just like an old piece of clothing. These are the Frankenstein or Frankie dolls, Miss and Mister. They're wearing the t-shirt and pants on him and the dress on her. Those are not wired, so that's what the unwired... Actually, I have pipe cleaners in their arms, so they're just wired with pipe cleaners. And then this one has the armature wire. She's got mohair yarn hair that's stitched on. And this is another piece of clothing that had an interesting pattern, so I just turned it into the bodysuit. To get these machine embroidered designs, hop over to ballyhoocreations.com, where we have quirky characters for the inspired sewist.